ABC General Hospital spoilers reveal that the atmosphere in Port Charles is beginning to shift under the weight of a devastating possibility, one that has left shockwaves moving through every corner of the city. News surrounding Jason Morgan has taken a dark and tragic turn, and whispers are spreading that his fate may have already been sealed. For years, Jason has stood at the center of danger without falling, surviving countless enemies and impossible situations. Yet this time, the circumstances surrounding his disappearance feel different. The dangerous web created by Jen Sidwell and Ross Cullum has tightened in ways no one fully understood until it was too late. What was once a desperate rescue plan to save Britt Westbourne has now become the story of a potential catastrophe that no one in Port Charles is ready to accept. Jason's determination to help Britt escape the control Cullum held over her was always risky. He knew that stepping into that world meant confronting people who were capable of ruthless decisions. Britt had been trapped, forced to cooperate with the Cold Fusion Project if she wanted to continue receiving the medication that kept her alive. Jason could not ignore that reality. His instinct has always been to protect the people he cares about, even when doing so puts him directly in the path of danger. But the deeper Jason moved into this plan, the more unpredictable the situation became. What began as a calculated rescue slowly turned into a deadly gamble. Now the horrifying possibility has emerged that Jason may have paid the ultimate price for that gamble. While the full truth has yet to be confirmed, the rumors surrounding his fate are already tearing through the lives of the people closest to him. Among them, no one is feeling the emotional explosion more intensely than Carly Spencer. For Carly, Jason was never just a friend or an ally. He was the one constant in a world that has betrayed her again and again. Losing Jason would mean losing the person who understood her without explanation. The one man who stood beside her, no matter how dark the situation became. The idea that Jason might be gone has left Carly drowning in a storm of grief, rage, and disbelief. And in the middle of that storm stands Britt. From Carly's perspective, everything that happened traces back to Britt's desperate situation and the choices that followed. If Britt had not been pulled into Cullum's dangerous project, Jason would never have stepped into the line of fire. If Britt had kept her distance, Jason might still be standing beside his son instead of disappearing into a deadly conflict. In Carly's mind, the logic is painfully simple, even if it is unfair. Jason risked everything because he believed Britt needed him. That belief may now have cost him his life. The result is a wave of anger that Carly can barely control. Grief has a way of transforming into blame, and Britt has become the easiest target for the pain Carly refuses to accept. Every memory of Jason's loyalty now sharpens Carly's sense of injustice. She sees Britt not as another victim of Cullum's manipulation, but as the person whose crisis pulled Jason into a war he could not escape. The emotional fallout from that belief is already beginning to ignite a confrontation that may explode beyond anyone's expectations. For Britt, the situation is no less devastating. Jason's involvement was never something she wanted. In fact, she tried to keep him away, fully aware of how dangerous Cullum's world had become. But Jason refused to walk away. Once he understood the truth of what Britt was enduring, there was no force powerful enough to stop him from trying to help. Now Britt must live with the terrifying possibility that his loyalty led directly to tragedy. The guilt alone is enough to crush her, even before Carly's anger enters the picture. That is what makes the growing conflict between Carly and Britt so explosive. Both women are grieving the same man, but they are processing that grief in completely different ways. Carly channels her pain into fury, searching for someone to blame. Britt carries her pain as a quiet burden, aware that no explanation will ever erase the consequences of what happened. Every encounter between them now carries the tension of an emotional battlefield waiting to ignite. Yet, the situation may be even more complicated than either woman realizes. Beneath the tragedy lies a series of new calculations quietly unfolding. If Jason truly disappeared during the chaos surrounding Cullum and Sidwell, it raises disturbing questions about what really happened in those final moments. Was Jason simply a casualty of a violent confrontation, or was something far more strategic unfolding behind the scenes? In Port Charles, death has rarely been as final as it first appears, and even the darkest rumors sometimes hide a deeper truth waiting to surface. For Carly, however, none of those possibilities matter right now. All she sees is the devastating absence Jason has left behind. The man who protected her, supported her, and helped anchor her life is suddenly gone, and that emptiness is tearing through her sense of control. As she struggles to process the shock, her anger toward Britt is becoming more intense by the day. Carly may feel that Britt represents everything that went wrong, the chain reaction that ended in Jason's disappearance. If that anger continues to grow, the conflict between Carly and Britt could erupt into one of the most emotionally violent confrontations Port Charles has seen in years. What began as grief may soon transform into a bitter war of blame and regret. And the cruelest truth of all is that both women may be fighting over a tragedy that has not yet revealed its final chapter. Because if Jason Morgan truly is gone, the loss will haunt them forever. But if the story surrounding his fate still holds hidden twists, then the emotional explosion now unfolding between Carly and Britt may only be the beginning of a much larger storm. Jason Morgan has now become the central target in a dangerous game orchestrated by Jen Sidwell and Ross Cullum, and that reality may explain why his sudden disappearance is sending shockwaves through Port Charles. What initially looked like a risky mission to help Britt escape the control surrounding Cullum's cold fusion project has now spiraled into something far more catastrophic. The deeper Jason moved into the situation, the more he threatened the plans Sidwell and Cullum had carefully constructed. For men like them, someone with Jason's determination and loyalty was not simply an inconvenience. He was a threat that had to be eliminated. That is why the moment Jason began interfering with their operations, the situation quietly shifted from manipulation to open danger. Now his disappearance feels less like an accident and more like the result of a calculated attack designed to remove him from the board entirely. The possibility that Jason was deliberately targeted has changed the entire narrative surrounding his fate. Instead of a simple mission gone wrong, what may have happened looks more like the outcome of a ruthless strategy. Sidwell and Cullum have too much at stake to allow Jason to keep digging into their operation, especially once he realized Britt was being forced to cooperate in order to survive. Jason's instinct to protect Britt pushed him directly into their line of fire, and the moment he refused to back down, he may have sealed his own fate. If Sidwell and Cullum truly decided that Jason needed to disappear, then the chaos surrounding him was never random. It was the product of careful planning, a trap designed to ensure that one of the most dangerous men in Port Charles would no longer interfere with their ambitions. For Carly Spencer, the growing realization that Jason may have been deliberately hunted has turned grief into something sharper and more relentless. Carly has always known that Jason lived a dangerous life, but the thought that he could be deliberately erased by people manipulating Britt's situation has ignited a storm inside her. Jason's absence now feels like a personal attack not only on him, but on everything he represented in her life. Instead of retreating into despair, Carly's instincts are pushing her toward action. If Jason has truly been taken down by Sidwell and Cullum, Carly refuses to believe the story ends there. Britt, meanwhile, is trapped in a painful position of guilt and determination. She understands better than anyone how Jason became entangled in this nightmare. It was her situation, her dependence on the medication Cullum controlled, and the pressure she faced that pulled Jason into the conflict. Even though Jason chose to help her willingly, Britt cannot escape the feeling that his disappearance is somehow connected to the danger that surrounded her. Yet, instead of breaking under that guilt, Britt may now be shifting toward a new mindset, one driven by the need to uncover the truth. If Jason became a target because of what he discovered, then the only way to honor what he did is to continue searching for the answers he was trying to uncover. This is where the story begins to evolve into a new phase of calculation and strategy. Carly and Britt may not trust each other completely, but the situation surrounding Jason forces them into the same orbit. Carly wants justice, or perhaps revenge, while Britt wants to prove that Jason's sacrifice was not meaningless. Their motivations are different, but both of them are now driven by the same burning question: what really happened to Jason Morgan? That question is pushing them toward actions neither woman would normally take. Carly's fierce loyalty and Britt's growing determination are slowly transforming into a joint search that could expose secrets Sidwell and Cullum desperately want buried. As they begin to follow the scattered clues Jason left behind, the tension between them becomes both a weakness and a strange source of strength. Carly still struggles with anger toward Britt, believing that Jason stepped into danger because of her. Britt, on the other hand, knows that without Jason, she might never have had a chance to escape Cullum's control. Their shared loss has created an uneasy alliance built on suspicion, grief, and determination. Yet that alliance may be the one thing Sidwell and Cullum did not anticipate. By removing Jason, they may have unknowingly triggered a chain reaction that could expose their entire operation. The deeper Carly and Britt dig, the clearer it may become that Jason's disappearance is not the end of the story, but the beginning of something even more dangerous. Every clue they uncover could reveal how far Sidwell and Cullum were willing to go to silence Jason. At the same time, the search itself places both women directly in the path of the same forces that targeted him. If Jason truly vanished because he became too dangerous to ignore, then anyone trying to follow his trail may soon find themselves facing the same threat. In the end, Jason's disappearance has transformed from a tragic mystery into a catalyst that is driving the story forward. Sidwell and Cullum may believe they have removed their biggest obstacle, but the shock of Jason's fate has created a new dynamic in Port Charles. Carly's fury and Britt's determination are now merging into a relentless pursuit of the truth. And if their search continues to expand, it could lead them into a confrontation that exposes the entire scheme, proving that even in his absence, Jason Morgan may still be the force that brings everything crashing down. Fortunately, the tragic fate surrounding Jason Morgan may not be as final as it first appears. There are growing hints that the story could take an unexpected turn, especially if Jason makes the long-anticipated return that Steve Burton himself has often teased could happen sometime this summer. What currently looks like a devastating loss may actually be part of a much larger narrative shift being carefully built by the writers of General Hospital. The grief that Carly Spencer and Britt Westbourne are now experiencing, raw, overwhelming, and filled with regret, could ultimately become only a temporary chapter in a far more shocking storyline. For Carly and Britt, the emotional weight of Jason's disappearance feels painfully real. Carly is struggling with the possibility that the one man who never abandoned her may truly be gone, while Britt is carrying the unbearable guilt that Jason placed himself in danger because he wanted to save her. Their reactions are different. Carly burns with anger and blame, while Britt sinks into quiet remorse, but both women are united by the same haunting absence. Jason has always been the person who held chaos together for them, the one figure capable of stepping into danger without hesitation. Without him, the balance in their lives feels shattered. Yet beneath the tragedy, a new possibility is beginning to take shape. If Jason truly returns, it will not simply be a happy reunion. His reappearance would bring with it a wave of revelations that could reshape everything the audience believed about his disappearance. The circumstances surrounding Sidwell and Cullum, the mysterious operation Britt was forced into, and the sudden collapse of Jason's rescue mission could all be part of a much deeper strategy. In Port Charles, a disappearance often hides secrets, and Jason's story may be no exception. If the writers follow this path, Jason's return would arrive as a massive shock not only for Carly and Britt, but for everyone who believed he was lost. Carly's grief could quickly turn into fierce determination once she realizes Jason may have survived the attack. Britt's guilt could transform into renewed hope, especially if Jason reappears with the truth about what really happened during the confrontation with Sidwell and Cullum. The emotional explosion from such a revelation would ripple through Port Charles, forcing every character connected to the story to confront the consequences of what they believed was the end. More importantly, Jason's return would signal the beginning of an entirely new chapter. Instead of being the victim of a tragic fate, he could emerge as someone who has uncovered critical secrets during his disappearance. Whatever happened to him may have allowed him to see the true scope of the conspiracy surrounding Sidwell's project. If Jason comes back with that knowledge, the power dynamic in the story could shift dramatically. The people who believed they had eliminated him would suddenly find themselves facing the one man who knows exactly how to dismantle their plans. That is why Jason's potential comeback is more than just a dramatic twist, it represents a narrative reset. The pain Carly and Britt are feeling now could soon transform into the shock of seeing someone they mourned step back into the world they thought he had left behind forever. And when that moment comes, it will not simply heal the wounds created by his disappearance. It will ignite a new conflict, one fueled by revenge, hidden truths, and the realization that Jason Morgan's story in Port Charles was never truly over.